Spoken label. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, yes, Andy N, Spoken Label. Not shouting today because we're in Manchester Central Library, so we have to keep this fairly quiet for once. Got a wonderful lady with me today. Now, if you've noticed in Spoken Label feed, she's just done a quick PS episode a couple of weeks ago. The wonderful Liz Gibson. Now, we're here today to talk to Liz about creativity because I know she's a lady that's done a lot of projects. So I want to talk to you generally about this today, Liz. But obviously, people who don't know you first of all, tell us a bit about yourself and where all this came from originally.
Hi, I'm Liz. I write poetry. I do a lot of stuff for the theatre these days, and I'm hoping to write a young adult novel. It's something that's been in progress for a while. I think I've always been creative, and I think a big influence for me was music. From as long as I can remember, my parents would always listen to folk music, and
Was there any favourites for you, was there?
Well, Nancy Griffiths was definitely...
I adore Nancy Griffith. I was crushed when she died last year. Oh, seriously upset over that.
Yeah, that it was kind of sudden too. Yeah, Nancy...
Well, have you got any favourite albums of Nancy Griffiths in particular?
Well, she's got a live album called A Fair Summer's Evening that I really like. I like Fire as well.
Yeah, great choices both of them. So, obviously then you love her music then transcribed into your writing, didn't it? So you got older.
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to tell stories, and my brother and I would do a lot of kind of just playing around, like we did like puppet shows, we'd write these silly little stories together. It was just something that I always did. Then when I was about 10, I entered a poetry competition and I was one of the winners, and I got to meet Ian McMillan, which was really cool.
Brilliant. What was it like?
Just really funny. Yeah, that was a really good day.
I do listen to The Verb a lot through Apple to do. He's so funny and he's dead charming. So, obviously, I know in yourself, and there's a lot of ground we could cover here, really, because I could probably be about 2 hours going through bits and pieces with you. But I know generally, obviously, you did your degree over at Manchester University, didn't you? And you surprised me. You told me you did it in languages, didn't you? So.
Yes, so I did an integrated professional masters in languages, which is a really complicated degree that kind of combines languages with kind of professional development. So I did a module in leadership, which was really interesting, so I did lots of volunteering, including at a book cycle, which is like a free library, so that also definitely helped me just be in a creative space. And I did 2 years abroad in France and Spain, which again was really good because I felt like it gave me the space to just really focus on writing, and I guess escape my life a little bit and just be in a completely new place.
Yeah, I think sometimes as people we need that sometimes, where don't you like it's to help you develop in the direction you want to go, particularly if you're creative, you have to go elsewhere. I've done lots of travelling myself in my 20s, and there's places I've covered all over Europe and England as well. But yeah, I think you've made a good move there, definitely with that. But obviously, you told me before, when you came back to England, it kind of made it natural for you to move to Manchester then, didn't it, really, from there? So
I originally had a job in central Manchester, and that's why I ended up living there. Then at the moment I'm self-employed, but I'm just kind of staying put because it's easiest, and I do really love Manchester. And I'm reaching a point here because I've kind of lived here about 10 years on and off, including my time at uni. So I feel like I'm at a point where I feel really comfortable.
I think as a creative person, you've got to have some kind of levels of being comfortable, otherwise you end up going paranoid, and it's not good for you. Now, but I want to talk to you today really because creativity. Because we met originally, didn't we, when you came to Speak Easy, the night I co-run, where it was in Stretford. And I'm sure were you living at Central Manchester at that point? Were you? I've got a hope of you living in Prestwich or some reason.
No, I think I was living in central Manchester. That was when I was working because I walked from my office in the centre to Stretford.
That's what did it. No, I remember turning around and telling Amanda afterwards, my wife, and I said to her, we should get the girls on pub, especially if she can't afford it. I felt really guilty afterwards for ages and that. But yeah, in relation to yourself and your work, like I said, people research, they would know. Like, you don't just you write all kinds of genres, don't you? You've already said about you got a novel on the go. I know you for your poetry, and researching, you've done quite a few plays and monologues, haven't you? So what made you want to be so varied in your work, or that does come natural progression for you, really?
I think it's just about wanting to communicate things and what medium is best for that. Sometimes I want to write a poem. Often if I want to write about experiences that have happened to me, but I want to make them a bit more kind of less obvious that it's about me, then I'll do a story because then I can create a character. I think often people read poems in the first person and assume you're talking about yourself, even if you might not be. So sometimes if I have something I want to say, but I don't want to put it in a poem and be like, this is my story, but I'll put it in a story and like make a character. And with plays, it's kind of that those are the opportunities that I've had in the last couple of years. And I've just been really lucky that I've been able to get quite a few different opportunities in like the Manchester and Greater Manchester theatre scene. I've done work with Oldham Coliseum, with Dibby Theatre, with Superbia at Manchester Pride, and Ergon Theatre. So I kind of discovered this world that I hadn't really had access to until a couple of years ago, and now it feels like everything's incredibly open. It's really exciting. Yeah,
no, it definitely is. It's certainly in the post-lockdown world, there's so much opportunities coming out there in a minute. I find getting time to approach everything is the problem, isn't it? And you must be in that situation yourself sometimes, and there's so much going on, isn't there? You're trying to keep up with it sometimes.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time applying for things, and it's often really hard to know when to stop, because I kind of think I have to apply for this because if I got this it would be really good, but then I kind of have to, there's a point where you kind of have to draw the line and focus on what you're already doing, and it can be tricky.
No, I completely agree with you on that. Now, obviously, with your work itself, and obviously, I cannot ask you about the novel, obviously, because the novel's obviously is in flux still, isn't it, where we look at it. But do you find it's, when you're doing your plays and stuff, there's loads of these that we could talk about, but I think my best case to take it as a general overview for you. But like, for example, I was interested in the one that you did, noticed that you did the one with Dibby Theatre, didn't you? For the competitive First Dibs programme, for example. Like, when you were writing that, is it a very different process for you writing your poetry like that? It's like, I believe you can train your brain to write one thing, but it's easier to do a second and third medium, isn't it? So.
Yes, I think for me, writing plays and writing monologues gives me a lot more freedom. So I don't have to worry about kind of line length and other things that I do in a poem. With poems, I'm very conscious of making it as perfect as I can because it's this small thing that I want to be perfectly formed. And whereas with a monologue, say, I can just go in all kinds of directions. I can go on tangents and really explore, and that's something I've discovered more recently, and I'm really happy to have done that. With my play for Dibby Theatre is a one-person show, so it's kind of just me talking for an hour. There are some characters that are animals that I play, but they also just represent different parts of me. Like there's a really flamboyant cat who represents the more kind of confident part of me that I don't get to show often, and there's a goose who's really kind of grumpy.
Brilliant.
So.
Oh, great. Now, I know actually as well you got awarded, didn't you? This is my dyslexia is going to kick in now, so I'll be kind of say it slowly. A DYCP grant with the Arts Council in Manchester, like the spring last year. Tell us a bit about that next then. What's the process for that then?
So that was an incredible thing to have happened, because I was just moving towards being self-employed, and it was just really, really good timing that I got that. So that was it's a Developing Your Creative Practice grant, and I specifically applied to work on poetry and performance, and particularly queer poetry, and kind of exploring different ways of communicating queerness in poetry. And I've been mentored by Caroline Bird and Romy Smith, and they've both been amazing.
Oh, fantastic. How was that then for you? Was that fantastic? That would have been clearly a fantastic experience, because I've been in the lecture that Caroline Bird's done, and I've met Robbie Smith as well, so brilliant. Was that a fantastic experience for you then, was it?
Yeah, it was brilliant, because they're both people who were my heroes, and to get to work with them one-to-one was really incredible, and I feel so much more confident since
Oh yeah.
then.
I think something like that, it's always a boost your confidence as a writer and a person, like it's you're doing that, like it's brilliant. Well done for that, definitely. So now there's a lot more ground we can cover, like I said, but I know you've had people wondering about the research. You've been publishing quite a lot around journals, and you brought a few with you today. We're going to do in the second part of this in a few minutes. And I know you've been in a lot of anthologies as well. People can easily find if they're researching that straight away. But what I want to touch about is, obviously, I know you've got your own magazine going, haven't you? You're involved in what's called Foxglove Journal. Tell us about that next time.
Yes, so Foxglove is an online journal that I've been running since late 2016. I was living in France when I started it, and it's kind of a way of hopefully bridging borders and connecting with different people. We have submissions from all over the world, and I'm very open in what I accept. I think that there's a lot of unspoken rules in the poetry community, at least in the UK, and I try to just have a really kind of broad mind and accept people's own voices and even things that are seen as a bit unconventional. And I also really enjoy photography, and I match one of my photos to each piece of writing that someone sends in, so we get kind of a combination of art and writing that hopefully is kind of more than some of its parts, that the two work together in a certain way. And
yeah. I think it's a tricky thing to do that sometimes, because I've done one of my books is like that, where in fact two of them were, well the second one I was using other people's art photography, and also I've got a friend that's a really good photographer, and I wrote about 6 poems directly based on his photographs. And then I remember, this might smile, where I told them I was going to use these, and they said to me, "Oh, do you want a few more?" So it was like, way it goes, isn't it? That definitely. Now, a couple of things I want to touch on to start before we wrap up this part for you today. Obviously, I know you've been, I'm trying to read my handwriting here. I know you were selected by the Cornwall's Home, weren't you, for the Creative Stars, Young Creators and Digital Reporters projects between 2011 and 2019. And then obviously, through these projects, you were on the curation team, weren't you, for a film festival, a couple of art exhibitions as well. Tell us about that then.
So I've had a really good relationship with Corner House, which then became Home. Starting all those years ago when I did the Creative Stars programme, which was a team of young people. I think there were 19 of us, who applied, and we all had some kind of creative passion. So we worked together and we put on art exhibitions at a film festival, and I've stayed involved in Home, and the most recent thing I did with them was called Digital Reporters in 2019, where I was part of a team that would like review stuff and photograph their events, and that it was really good. It was a good way of networking and getting to see exhibitions and stuff. So that was good.
Oh, brilliant. So it's always a good way to do that sort of thing. Keep your fingers in there, not you in there, the pies, basically. Good luck. Now, start wrapping up this part anyway for you. I always like asking people, and you also a bit more trickier one really, because I always like to ask people what they've got coming up next, creative-wise. But obviously, in your case, is going to be a monologue you do Business and Mill, which you've already touched on. But do you have anything planned for the autumn after that? Anything else coming up?
Well, the main things that I'll be doing are just working on my own poetry now, because I've been giving a lot of time to this commission for the past few months. So now that I've finished that, I'm just intending to polish my poems. I've got a lot that are on the theme of kind of urban nature and my walks around the city, and some of the kind of post-industrial places that I really love, like the canals, quarries, kind of abandoned spaces which have got really overgrown.
Oh, brilliant. No, good luck with it, definitely. So keep us informed when you go with that, sure, certainly. Now, if people want to find out more about you, where do you recommend they go?
So I'm on social media as Grizon, which is a bit of a weird name, but it kind of comes from the world of the Chalet School books that I used to be a big
Chalet School
fan
books
of.
here?
Yeah.
Oh, my sister's favourite series, that. She's got so many first editions of them, it's crazy. Did you get into them when you were a kid then, did you, basic Chalet School books?
I was actually probably a teenager. I was recommended them by a teacher at school, and I got really into them. I found out that one of my neighbours, like when I lived back in Wigan, was a fan and had like a big collection of them. So it's really cool because you discover things about people you've always known that you didn't know, and that you've got these connections.
Oh, definitely. There was a fair back in that series as well. Was it about? Am I right in thinking there was 60 to 70 books in total?
Yeah.
I remember growing up with my sister reading them. Anyway, I'm feeling old now. Okay. Anyway, we'll conclude this part here anyway, Liz. So I know you're going to do a few pieces from the third part of this today. So it's been a pleasure today. See you all night.
Spoken Label.
Okay, guys. Yes, part 3 now with the wonderful Liz Gibson. Liz is going to read out 2 pieces for us. Over to you, Liz.
So I was really, really happy recently to have a poem published in Magma, which was an absolute dream journal for me to be a part of, and I've been trying for like 10 years, so it was an incredible moment. It's in the most recent issue, which is 83, and the theme is solitude, and the poem is called The Attic Years. My pre-date routine back then was taking the pill, having rushed in from lectures to my attic room, drenching my underarms with organic argan oil, and playing at tidying my hair, which was still long, like dark kelp when it was wet, on my white vastness. I would try to believe I saw something worthwhile in my wardrobe mirror, that my wide denim blouse could belong to a hipster who loved the Indigo Girls and Joni Mitchell, who inked portraits of women, who could teach you every planet and constellation, who, until a few months ago, had been living high up a mountain in Spain with many crickets and frogs, and was familiar with bleeding and scans, a hospital in the hills with signs in Gallego, and then the pill. I thought it crucial to take at the same time every day, had picked mornings. After several snoozed alarms, I rearranged to 5 before dinner. Finally, argan-oiled and medicated, I would traipse across the damp lawn to the old hall, perch alone at my long wooden table, and watch the queue, wondering if she would come, and if she would spot me and settle, or keep moving. Now, slightly slighter, with short hair, men's shirts, boots, guitar, I'm still big and difficult. I might throw on a silver necklace, my starfish or hot air balloon, before going to meet someone, but I don't make much more effort than I would for my own quiet company. I have jumped through a few fires. Time is precious, and hell, you can have me raw. And you can hear about the frogs outside my room in the hills of Galicia, how bloody loud they were at night, how I loved them, and the crickets, and life. Smell the argan oil on me.
Tremendous. You really got a good grip to us as a person there with that one, so I won't ask you a lot of questions about that because it's such a, you can tell that you lived that piece. The other question I ask is, why did you call it the attic queerness as a title?
I think I was having trouble thinking of a title, and ultimately I wanted something that suggests a certain period of time, like the years of whatever, and this was during a time when I was living in essentially a little attic room, and I guess it also has this idea of being like tucked away maybe, and feeling like an outsider if you're like in the attic and other people are in the main building.
You know, I got that straight away with that. Tremendous stuff. Okay, I know you got one more piece for us, haven't you, for this part of the podcast?
So I have a poem in the latest magazine from Fly on the Wall.
Oh, Isabel's gorgeous. I love Isabel. Have you actually met her?
Yeah, she's lovely.
Oh, she's a really nice girl, isn't she? Oh, brilliant. Let's go for it.
So their latest magazine is all about under the sea, and my poem in it is called The Otter World. In our world, which is a lot like yours, we can turn to otters. We ease ourselves into our fur, scuttle into frothy waves, raise babies on our adorned bellies, then become people again. This has been going on for centuries, you know, but recently, with the increase in what we humans carry, clothes, bags, shoes, keys, money, jewellery, books and papers and more, the question rose, where does it go when we take otter form? Gradually, we realised it sits as extra weight beneath our fur, a bit cumbersome, but still ours, and in the winter months it keeps us full and warm. Once we slide back to human, some of it stays settled beneath the skin, shaping and curving our silhouettes, offering a glimpse of days navigating the tides, depths and shallows, storms, cubs and fights, long dark nights. When people observe your body, ask with their eyes, you say, hey, I know I'm a bit fatter, but you see, I was an otter. They never quite get it, so you are quiet, nor your secret. It doesn't matter who they knew or thought they knew then. You are carved from the oceans, child. Epic, transient, here.
Whoa, that's deep. That's seriously deep. No, but again, fantastic piece. You can tell that I love what your work is. I know. What's great there, people wondering, I'm like looking over your shoulder, reading from the magazine. Each piece, those two pieces, were really well measured. Then there wasn't a word out of place in that. So you can tell like you put thought into it, and your heart's going to be brilliant. Tremendous stuff. I want to thank you for today. It's been a pleasure. Seriously, it's been a pleasure. So we're going to conclude this part now, and people are wondering now, Liz is actually going to do a fourth part for me now. She'll be sick of the sight of me every time we're done today. So, but seriously, it's been a pleasure. Good luck with the play, which obviously people are wondering that would have happened by now the time this comes out, but good luck and all the best in the future.
Oh, thank you, it's been really good.
Okay, guys and girls, as Don Callis over at Impact Wrestling says, and I'll use as my usual conclusion, stay safe, guys, and stay over, and we will see you all next time.
Spoken Label.